So you want to get into 3D printing, but you're not sure where to start. I'll be using this video to break down all the things you need to get into 3D printing, everything from the printers to filament slicers and random tools and miscellaneous items that I think will help you along the way. Now, you don't have to spend the time to get into 3D printing, and I'll be going over cheaper options and the pitfalls that come along with that, as well as more of a plug-and-play beginner setup. This video is going to be strictly about hobby printing, not making a 3D printing business or making money with your 3D printer, because there's things I would recommend for that I wouldn't necessarily recommend for this. Now, if these videos are something you like and you would like to watch more 3D printing content, consider liking and following, because these are the kind of videos that I push out. The first thing you want to do is make sure you have the space for a printer. Buying a whole bunch of stuff for a hobby and then realizing you don't have the space for it is super frustrating. I know, because I've done it myself. Now, there's a couple ways you can go. You can get a sturdy desk or a table, or you might already have one to put your printer on. If you don't feel like buying one, you can just put the printer on the floor. I mean, plenty of people do it. I put my Ender 3 on the floor when I first got it because the plastic table I had it on was shaking around too much, causing failed prints. You could check Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. There's plenty of people always giving away free tables and desks. You just kind of have to look for it. And if you go the floor or Facebook Marketplace route, you could save a couple bucks and put that into the printer or a couple more rolls of filament. Your printing space is all figured out, and now it's time to start looking at printers. There's a ton of options out there in any price range from $100 and something all the way up to a couple thousand. But if you're just beginning, I suggest working at a fairly conservative budget because you don't want to dump a bunch of money into something that you're not 100% sure you're going to like. I made a video of printers that I would suggest to people that are $300 and under, as well as $300 to $600, so I feel like that's a good starting budget for a lot of people. Or you could go the cheaper route and find a used printer off Facebook Marketplace. Newer printers are going to come out of the box pretty much plug and play with all the modern conveniences like auto bed leveling and filament runout sensors, all that good stuff. Whereas getting an older used printer off Facebook Marketplace, something like an Ender 3 Pro, does not. Working on those printers becomes a hobby in itself, and if you're someone who likes to tinker and get into the weeds about how things work or kind of tuning things to perfection, you can get those printers to run extremely well. It's just a lot of time and a lot of extra learning that some people just don't want to do. They just want to buy a printer and print. So just to circle back, the newer 3D printers are going to be way more plug and play and beginner friendly, as to where the older printers that you're going to get for a lot cheaper are going to require some work and time on your end to get printing how you want it. We're on to filament now, and there's a ton of filament options out there. You have PLA, PETG, ABS, ASA, PET, the list goes on and on. And just as long as the list of types of filament are the brands, there is a ton of them out there. I would suggest starting with PLA. It's super easy to print, it's forgiving, and it's cheap. So if you mess up a bunch of prints trying to tune things on one of those older printers, or if you got like that new printer excitement and just printing a ton of stuff, it's not going to break the bank. Getting filament's super easy. If you live near a Hobby Lobby, they recently started selling filament in stores for a really good price. Best Buy also stocks Bambu Labs filament. Some of them seem to stock Crtl+P, but that's kind of hit or miss from what I've seen. Ultimately, what I think the easiest thing would be to do is hop on Amazon and just type PLA filament. Find some colors with good reviews from what look like reputable brands, Sunlu, Elegoo. Try a few out. You'll eventually come to a brand or brands that you like, and those will be your go-to going forward. On a side note to that, if you don't mind waiting a little bit, places like TikTok Shop and AliExpress have great prices on filament if you buy like 10 or more rolls at a time, but that's kind of a big investment on top of buying your first printer and all that stuff, and there's kind of a weight that comes along with it. I've bought plenty of filament off the TikTok Shop because I like to buy 10 rolls at a time, and I've never had an issue with it. And it's been Sunlu and Crtl+P filament, if I remember correctly. So you got your printer, you got your filament. Now, how do you take a spool of filament and turn it into something cool? Well, you need a slicer. The slicer is going to be the program that breaks down 3D files and sends them over to your printer as instructions on what to print. Some printer companies have their own slicers, like Bamboo over here has BambuStudio, Crtl+P has Crtl+Print, but a lot of people like OrcaSlicer, which is a very solid third-party slicer that has a ton of options. It has tutorials and calibration tools built into it. You have a ton of options to mess around with in here, from like strength to speed. You can adjust sizes, but that would be a totally different video. It would take way too long to go through all of that in this one. There's also a ton of videos on YouTube for OrcaSlicer that will take you from just starting all the way up to advanced setting changes and what those settings can do for you. Now the fun part, actually finding 3D files to 3D print. There's plenty of places you can find these. You can go on Maker's World, Yegs, Thingiverse, Cults 3D. There's free models, paid models, subscription services. There's a lot, and it can get pretty overwhelming. The good thing is, most of these websites have search bars, so you type in what you're looking for, and a giant list will pop up of things related to that search. These files usually come in the form of STL files or 3MF files. You just download them, click and drag them into your slicer, and follow the instructions for your preferred slicer to get it to print on your printer. There is some other random things I suggest buying that'll help you along your 3D printing journey. One you might already have in your house would be a bottle of isopropyl alcohol to clean your bed. Another thing would be straight normal Dawn dish soap. A lot of adhesion issues could be solved by using just those two things. Simply washing off your bed with the Dawn dish soap in warm water, or giving it a quick wipe down with the isopropyl alcohol between prints has solved a ton of adhesion issues in my time 3D printing. Keeping on with the topic of having a clean bed, a good set of microfiber cloths is always good to have around. I would suggest some CA glue and maybe some activator to have your prints set faster if you need to glue things together. And last but not least is something I didn't really think I'd be using that much, but a good quality of like tiny picks. I swear, I use these way more than I thought I would to kind of get filament out of like tiny areas on prints, or I don't know, just a ton of things I've used them for since I've started 3D printing. And I think I got them from Harbor Freight for like $3. Most of the new printers today come with like a little tool kit that'll have some grease for all the rods and stuff, as well as like a tiny screwdriver and some Allen keys to work on the printer. Now, if you get a used printer and it doesn't come with anything, the previous owner doesn't give you anything, I would kind of look up that printer and find out what you need. Picking up a set of like Allen keys or something like that wouldn't be a horrible idea, but I would just double check the sizes of everything before you go out and buy a ton of stuff. I told you in the beginning I'd give you a budget setup, a beginner budget setup, and what I would do if I was going to start over again, I'd probably give myself a budget of about $500. I'd grab that table again from Harbor Freight if I can find it on sale for around $90. I'd probably look for an Elegoo Centauri Carbon for around $350. It's a good enclosed printer that's fairly new on the market and will hopefully have an AMS down the road, so it's upgradable. I'd grab a few rolls of filament off Amazon and use any leftover money I had from that to get maybe different kinds of filament once I got comfortable with PLA, but that's what I would do. Now, this should point you in the right direction to get you started on your 3D printing journey, but with all things, this wasn't all-inclusive. Do your own research. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have, leave them in the comments, and if you would like me to make a video going into more detail about some of these things, let me know. And again, thank you for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. I like to put out 3D content videos and help other people get into the hobby, hopefully.